Hi everyone, good morning to one and all. My name is Nagendra Reddy. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of CSM in Marri Laxman Reddy Institute of Technology and Management. Today I would like to explain the topic Introduction to Servlets, which is a topic in web technologies. Introduction to Servlets. What are the contents I am going to be explained today is Introduction to Web Server, Web Browser, Servlets. Servlets execution steps, what is meant by CGI, Common Gate Interface, differences between CGI and servlets, advantages of servlets, and what is a servlet or web container, and life cycle of the servlet. Before entering into the topic, first of all, we need to understand some basic concepts like web browser, web server, and what is meant by servlet. First, as we know that, what is meant by web server? Web server is nothing but a software. It is a application software through which we are connecting with World Wide Web, by using which we are surfing the internet. That is nothing but the web browser. Actually, it acts as a platform that allows us to access the information from the internet by serving as an interface between the client and World Wide Web. Web browser is acting as a platform between the user and World Wide Web. So the browser sends the request to the server for web documents and services. The render receives the HTML document including text, images, links, styles, and scripts. By this way, with the help of web browser, we can interact with the World Wide Web. Like to access the internet, we are using web browser. So web browser is the application software through which we are connecting with the World Wide Web, through which we are access the information from the internet. There are different types of web browsers: Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, Opera. These are all the different types of web browsers through which we are connecting with the net. So this is the application software. Next, what is meant by web server? From where we access the information, that is nothing but the web server. Web server is also a computer where we store all our information. A web server stores and delivers web content to the user over the internet. Whenever we are surfing the internet through the web browser, that web browser can access the information from the web servers. Web server, the process of connecting with the web servers through the web browser is happened with the help of protocols. HTTP protocol. A web server can send the information to the web browser through the HTTP protocol, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. There are two types of protocols: HTTP protocol, HTTP, or HTTPS. HTTP means Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTPS means Hypertext Transfer Protocol in secured manner. So preliminarily, there are so many other protocols are there, but basically all the web servers can use these two protocols: HTTP protocol, HTTPS protocol. Actually, there is a separate HTTP server to provide these protocols to transfer the data from the user to web server and web server to user through the web browser. Web browser, whenever a client or user send the request to the web server through the HTTP request, from the server side, it will generate the HTTP response and send back the information to the user. So HTTP server is a type of web server focused on the HTTP communication. Next, we will go through how a web server is working. When a user enters the URL, then the browser sends an HTTP request to the web server. When a user enters the URL, that URL is in the form of HTTP request that is sent to the web server. So request through the internet from the web browser to web server, HTTP request is sent. Whenever the HTTP request is received, then the web server can generate the HTTP response and it sent back to the web browser. Then the web browser, after receiving this HTTP response, it displays the information to the user. This is how a web server can working. Whenever a particular HTTP request is received from the browser, it will generate the HTTP response and get back to the user or web browser. Next, this is the process here. How many totally there are 6 components are there to provide the service to the user where web server can do. First of all, client request. In the web browser, the user enter the URL and click the enter. In that case, DNS resolution will be triggered. The browser contacts to the DNS server to get the IP where the actual information is stored. After finding the IP, it will connect to the corresponding web server. Using the obtained IP address, the browser establishes the connection to the web server. After establishing the connection, the web server, after receiving the request from the web browser, the web server generates the or processing that request. Processing the request is nothing but it will generate the corresponding HTTP response. After generating the response, that is serving the response is nothing but the requested files. The requested files that are maybe HTML, that is maybe CSS, that is maybe JavaScript or images. Whatever requested by the browser, corresponding HTTP response is generated and it is sent back to the web browser. After receiving the HTTP response from the web server, the web browser corresponding web pages are displayed to the user who requested that URL or request. This is the way how a web browser can connect with the web server or web server can connect with the web browser to generate or to transfer the information. By this way, a user can interact with the web server through the web browser. So we need to mainly remember that how the data is or how the information is transferred from web browser to web server, vice versa. So this is the general process, how a user can access the information from the net. Web browser, first of all, a user can connect with the web browser to access the information. Through the web browser only, he will connect with the web server. This is the general process. Now we will go to the actual topic, that is nothing but the introduction to servlets. Before that, how many types of web servers we do have nowadays? We will see here. Apache web server, IIS web server, Linux web server, like Speed web server, Apache Tomcat web server, Node.js web servers. These are all the different types of web servers are available in the World Wide Web. Now, actual topic is introduction to servlets. First of all, we understood the general process how a user can interact with the web server or internet. Now, we will go to the actual topic, that is nothing but the introduction to servlet. First of all, what is meant by a servlet? Servlet is nothing but a Java program. Servlet is nothing but a Java program that run on the Java enabled web server or web application server. A servlet is like an applet but executes on the server side. A servlet is a Java program that executes on the server side. A servlets are platform independent software components which are available in the web server, any web server or application server. It is written in Java. It is written in Java, which dynamically extend the functionality of the web server. A servlet executes on a Java-enabled server. This is the basic definition. What is meant by a servlet? Servlet is nothing but a Java program which executes on the web server to handle the dynamic web pages. Actually, the servlets are used to handle the request obtained from the web server. What is the general process? Whenever the user requesting a particular URL, then immediately the browser can generate a HTTP request for that URL. That HTTP request is sent to the web server. Now, what a web server can do? After receiving the request from the web browser, the web server can invoke corresponding servlet to generate the HTTP response. See, to handle the request obtained from the web server, process the request, produce the responses, then send a response back to the web server. See, whenever web browser requests a particular URL to the web server, immediately the web server invoking the corresponding servlet. Then this servlet is executed. This servlet is executed. Actually, the servlet is in the form of .class files. It is already compiled version. These are all the executable files which are located in the web server. So corresponding servlet is executed and generate the HTTP response. And then this HTTP response is generated, sent to the web server. After receiving this HTTP response, the web server can send that response to the web browser. Then this web browser display the information whatever received from the web server, that is displayed to the renders or users. By this way, a web server can handle the servlets. Please remember that servlets are executed on the server side only. Whenever particular HTTP request is received from the web browser, corresponding servlet is executed by the web server and generate the corresponding HTTP response. That HTTP response may contain number of dynamic web pages. So, what is this? This is nothing but the web container. This is the web container where the servlets are located. The servlets are located inside the web server, that is nothing but the web container. This web container is also called as servlet container. These are the 6 steps when a servlet is executed. This is the general process, what exactly happening, how the servlets are executed on the server side. Okay, the client send the request to the web server. The client send the request to the web server. That request is HTTP request. Then the web server receives the request. After that, the web server passes the request to the corresponding servlet. Then this servlet is executed to generate the HTTP response. The servlet processes the request and generates the response in the form of output. After generating the HTTP response, that is sent back to the web server. Then the web server, that response is sent back to the corresponding requested web browser. Then the web browser display the information on the screen to the user. By this way, a servlet is executed on the server side to handle the dynamic web pages, to handle the HTTP requests. This is the general thing. What is a Java servlet? Servlet are nothing but the programs, Java programs which runs on the server side to handle the dynamic web pages or to handle the HTTP requests which are received from the web browser. This is this diagram explains how a web server can handle the HTTP request. Whenever from the browser, client side, this is the client side, here is the user. Whenever the user requesting something on the web browser, then that is sent to the web server as in the form of HTTP request. This web server is extended to some technologies. This web server is extended to some places to handle all the technologies. Here in the web server, there are so many technologies are implemented to handle the HTTP requests. One of the best technology is servlets. Other than servlets, we do have so many things. Servlets are there, PHP is there, CGI is there, hypertext preprocessor, CGI, common gate interface, servlets, Java server pages. With the help of any technology, it can handle the HTTP requests which are received from the web browser. But now we are discussing about servlets. That's why in the web server, whenever the HTTP request is received, then corresponding servlet is invoked. And then the servlet is executed and generate the HTTP response and it is sent back to the web server. Then that response is sent back to the browser. By this way, web server can handle the HTTP request with the help of servlets. So we need to remember that servlets are the Java programs which runs on the web servers to handle the dynamic web pages or to handle the HTTP requests. See, now how these servlets are handled by the web server. How the servlets are executed in the web servers. So now we will discuss about how web server is handled. Web server can extend into the web container to store all the new technologies which are required to handle the HTTP requests which are coming from web browser. So server-side extensions are nothing but the technologies that are used to create the dynamic web pages. Actually, to provide the facility, dynamic web pages are needed a container in the web server. So to meet this requirement, independent web server offers some solutions, nothing but some APIs. So servlets are servlet APIs. So to locate servlet APIs in the web server, the web server can be extended to the web container to handle these all new technologies. The servlet APIs are located in the web server to provide the service to the web server. With the help of this servlet APIs only, the web server can handle the dynamic web pages or dynamic HTTP requests which are received from the web browsers. The servlet technology is similar to the other web server extensions that are nothing but common gateway interface scripts and hypertext preprocessor. Before servlets or after servlets, there are so many other technologies which can be used by the web servers to handle the dynamic HTTP requests. Two other technologies are nothing but here is CGI, common gate interface scripts and hypertext preprocessor. So with the help of CGI scripts and with the help of PHP also, we can handle the HTTP requests coming from the web browser. However, Java servlets are the more acceptable. Even though PHP is there, CGI scripts are also there. Even though there are so many technologies, servlets are most acceptable, since they solve the limitations of CGI, such as low performance and low degree scalability. Scalability is nothing but capacity. So because of low performance, because of low capability of the CGI, we will go through the servlets. This is how the servlets are usable to handle the HTTP request by the web servers. So there are three technologies. What are they? PHP, hypertext preprocessor, CGI, common gate interface scripts, and servlets to handle the server-side requests. These three technologies are used by the web servers to handle the HTTP requests which are coming from web browser. Now coming to the point of what is CGI, common gate interface. It is also one of the technology, or it is also one of the application which can be used to handle the HTTP requests on the server side. These scripts are also used by the web server to handle the HTTP requests. How this CGI is used by the web server to handle the HTTP request? Suppose a user enter a URL and click the enter. Then immediately the web browser can create a HTTP request corresponding to that URL. That is sent to the web server. Then immediately after receiving the HTTP request, the web browser can initiate a process. It will initiate a process. In that process, it invokes corresponding CGI scripts to handle that request. In that process invoking the CGI scripts to handle that HTTP request. Immediately that scripts are executed and generate the HTTP response. And after generating the HTTP response, that is sent back to the process. After receiving the response from the process, the CGI can kill that process. After kill or destroying that process, that HTTP response is sent back to the corresponding browser. By this way, every time HTTP request is coming and corresponding process is generated, after receiving the HTTP response from that process, it will kill the process. This is the way how a server can handle the HTTP request when it uses CGI scripts. By the scene, we can observe that every time it will create a separate process to handle a separate request. This is the time consuming process. It is a memory wasted process. At the same time, there is so much scalability, low scalability, we understand. Suppose there are number of requests are coming from the web browser. In that case, for each request, there is a separate process is required to handle that. So this is the time consuming process and the performance is also very low. That's why we will go through the servlets concept. To handle the multiple requests in the servlet side, it will use the multi-threading concept. There is no need of separate process need to be generated to handle the number of requests at a time. Whenever we use servlet technology, in that case, with the help of single servlet, it can handle the multiple requests by including the multi-threading concept. So that's why this is the drawback or limitation of CGI. That's why we will go to the servlets rather than using the CGI, common gate interface scripts. See, this is the diagram. How the CGI can be used by the web server to handle the HTTP requests. Clients requesting the particular URL is in the form of HTTP request. After receiving that, it will generate a process to handle that invoke the CGI application scripts. Then that CGI application scripts generate the HTTP response and it back to the server. Then this server can kill the process. By using which process this CGI application is invoked. After killing this process only, that HTTP response is sent back to the client. This is the way how a web server can use CGI scripts to handle the HTTP request. This is the timing consuming process, at the same time low performance. That's why we will go to the serverless concept. Now, what are the major differences between the servlets and CGI? We can see the table. One side servlets, one other side is CGI. Servlets are portable and efficient. CGI is not portable. We cannot move one place to another place. In servlets, sharing data is possible. In CGI, sharing data is not possible. For every request, there is a separate process is required in the CGI. Servlets can directly communicate with the web server, but CGI cannot directly communicate with the web server. Web server can initiate a process. In that process can invoke the CGI application to handle the HTTP request. It cannot directly communicate with the web server. Servlets are less expensive than CGI. CGI is more expensive than servlets. Servlets can handle the cookies. CGI cannot handle the cookies. We will discuss in another topic what is meant by cookie, what is meant by sessions. These are all the major differences between the servlets and common gate interface. Both are used by the web server to handle the HTTP requests, but servlets are more acceptable because of these limitations of CGI. Now, we will see what is servlet APIs. These servlet APIs are located in the web server to handle the HTTP requests. So, suppose you would like to write a servlet program, then you need to include some packages. In that packages only servlets are available. Before writing the servlet program or servlet program, we need to include these packages. Here we have two built-in packages: basic package and advanced package. Basic package is also called as generic package. Whenever we use or we include this package javax.servlet in our Java program, then we are creating the basic servlet program. It cannot have HTTP request form. It is a generic servlet program. Suppose you would like to use HTTP class or HTTP server, then you need to include advanced version of package. That is javax-servlet.http. This is the advanced one. Various classes are available in both generic package and advanced package. These are all the component type packages. See, servlet is an interface. It is available in javax-servlet basic package. Servlet request interface servlet. These are all the basic packages. What are the components are available in these packages? We will see here. These are all the servlet interface, servlet request interface, servlet response interface are available in basic package. These are all the 4 components which are available in generic package. Remaining, these are all the 4 components which are available in the advanced version of packages. Suppose you would like to use this one, HTTP servlet request or HTTP servlet response, then you need to include these packages. These are all the different components related to the servlets are available in these 2 packages. Suppose you would like to write a servlet program, you need to include these 2 packages or any one of the package. What are the main advantages of servlets comparing with CGI? Here, Basically, we are comparing with CGI and PHP scripts. PHP scripts is different. With the help PHP is also server-side programming, server-side scripting programming. But whenever we are explaining about the advantages of servlets, we will compare with the CGI. Servlets are faster than CGI because they do not create a new process for each request. As I said, every time web server can initiate a separate process to handle a HTTP request. In that process only CGI will be handled. Since servlets are written in Java, they are platform independent. A single servlet instance handle multiple requests using threads, reducing the memory usage and improving the performance. With the help of single servlet program, we can handle the multiple HTTP requests by using threading concept. Being a server-side component, servlets are benefit from security features of the web server. Servlet API inherits the Java advantages such as portability, access to the other Java APIs like JDBC for database connectivity. Actually, servlet APIs are inherent Java technology. So, whatever the features are available in Java that are acquired by the Java servlets, that are nothing but the JDBC connectivity and other APIs also. Many servlet capability web servers are available for free. Most of the servlet acceptable web servers are available for free at low cost, while most commercial servers are costly. So, web servers which are using the servlets, most of the servers are very costly. Okay. One of the free web server which is using the servlets is nothing but Apache server. Apache web server can be used. Apache web server uses the servlet programs to handle the HTTP requests. It is free. It is freely available in the net. Suppose you would like to practice any servlet program, you can use Apache web server. So, in the concept of deployment of servlet, you can see how a HTTP request is handled by the servlet in the Apache web server. These are all the advantages of Java servlet. Next, the servlet container, where the servlet programs are, where the servlet APIs are located in the web server. That is nothing but the web container or web servlet container. So, web server can be extended to the web container or servlet container. In the servlet container or web container, all servlet APIs are located. So, there are number of servlet.class files are available in the servlet container to handle the HTTP requests requested by the web server. Okay. Servlet container is also known as servlet engine. It is integrated set of objects that provide a runtime environment for Java servlet components. In simple word, it is a system that manages Java servlet components on top of web server to handle the web client requests. To handle the web client requests or to handle the HTTP requests coming from web server, servlet components are located in the servlet container or web container, which is integrated with the web server. So, in the web server only, web container available or servlet container is available. It is ready to respond to the web server. Services provided by the servlet container. These are all the 5 or 6 services provided to the web server from the servlet container. Network services. Loads a servlet class. Loading may be from a local file system or remote file system or other network services. Suppose a request is coming from the web server. To handle that request, immediately the servlet engine or servlet container invoking corresponding servlet which is available in the local system or it is available in the remote system. So, with the help of network services, it can handle. Next, decode and encode MIME based messages. In the HTTP request, there may be in the request may contain different types of files, different types of extension files is required. So, to encode and decode that, this service is available in the servlet container. Manage servlet container. It manages the life cycle of the servlet. To handle the request, it will execute particular servlet, right? So, after receiving the request, to generate the response for that request, what is the life cycle of servlet is handled by the managed servlet container.
Resource management, it can handle the number of resources also, whatever the required by the servlet execution. Security services, it will provide the security also. Session management, so whenever a particular HTTP request is coming, to handle that request, it will handle the sessions also, like it will execute the corresponding servlet. After the completion of that response generation, it will close the servlet. So by this way, these are all the services are provided by the servlet container to the web server to handle the HTTP requests. Next, the life cycle of the servlet. Here we can see how a servlet can be executed while receiving the HTTP request. Basically, there are three states of the servlets. One is first one is initiate, second one is ready, the last one is destroy. There are only three states in the life cycle of the servlet. The web container maintains the life cycle of a servlet instance. Let's see the life cycle of the servlet. First thing, whenever a particular HTTP request is coming, then corresponding servlet is initiated. So in that initiation, immediately servlet class is loaded. Servlet instance is created. Servlet class means Java class is loaded. After that, instance is created. Instance is nothing but, for that class, it will generate the object. Instance is nothing but object. After object creation, initial method is invoked. Whenever initiation method is invoked, immediately that is coming to the ready state. In the ready state, service method is invoked. Immediately after invoking the service method, corresponding HTTP response is generated. After generating the HTTP response may be any dynamic web page. It contains like HTML files, CSS files, any images, any links, anything which is included in the HTTP response. After generating the HTTP response by the service method, it will destroy the method. Then that HTTP response is sent back to the web server. Web server can send back to the web browser. This is the life cycle of servlet. Here see, as displayed in the above diagram, there are three states of a servlet: new, ready, end. These are the three states. The servlet is in new state if the servlet instance is created. When instance is created, then the state is new. After invoking the initial method, the servlet comes in the ready state. After invoking the initial method, it comes to the ready state. In the ready state only, it will invoke the service method. With the help of service method only, HTTP response is generated. After the completion of HTTP response, then it will destroy the servlet. This is the life cycle of a servlet. So in this topic, we discussed about what is meant by a web browser, web server, how a web server can working, and what is meant by servlets, and how the servlets are executed, what are the execution steps of the servlets, and what is the life cycle of the servlet, what are the advantages of servlets. In the next session, we will go to the another topics. Thank you.